Go, go, go! Go!
That's pretty cool.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Forestry and Sawmill Roundtable. This is the Built in America series, and we welcome everybody back. Get your questions ready. We have Jack Beckwith, Northeast Regional Manager with Wood-Mizer, with us tonight, and he is here to answer all your questions and maybe give you some insights on things on your mills. Let me introduce the people that's with us. We have Eric, we have John Davison, we have Paul, we have Tim, and we have Craig, and sometimes Neil. He's supposed to be on. I don't know where he's at. He was here a minute ago.
Right here.
There he is. There's
right
Neil.
here.
All right, guys, so get your questions ready for Jack, and we're going to let Jack go ahead and open up with what he wants to say and get this show started. Go ahead, Jack.
All right. Well, thank you, Rick, and it's good to be back with this group. Sometime last year, I was on this roundtable, and it was a real pleasure getting to speak with fellow sawyers and lovers of the forest products industry. And this summer at the Boonville show, the New York State Woodman's Field Days, I ran into Rick and Tim, and they asked if I would be able to join them again for the roundtable discussion. And I said, absolutely. And I said, maybe sometime all the way in December. And it seemed like that was only maybe yesterday. Time flies, and here we are again. But it's good to be back. So for those that don't know me, my name is Jack Beckwith. I serve as the sales manager for the Northeast region in the United States for Wood-Mizer. And I've been serving customers for Wood-Mizer for almost 10 years now. And it's been a real pleasure to do that. And, I have one of the best jobs in the world. You to represent a product that I firmly believe in, and to work with good folks like everybody on this call that just share the love of the woods and love of sawdust and everything about that. And so it's a pleasure again to work for a company like Wood-Mizer. If you're not familiar, Wood-Mizer started in 1982 by two gentlemen by the name of Don Laskowski and Dan Tucolvi. And those last names, they formed the model numbers LT40, Laskowski to Colby. And those guys were in Indiana, and they needed a machine to cut lumber out of a log. And instead of buying a mill, they said, why don't we just make one for ourselves? And they made a machine that you could bring the sawmill to the log pile and saw it there instead of hauling logs to the sawmill traditionally. And they came up with that cantilevered head design, and which is still our flagship design, and kind of created this market of a portable sawmill back in 1982. And we certainly haven't stopped there. You know, we've been the leader of innovation in the forest products industry and in the portable sawmill market. And I mean, every day, our leadership team, our engineering team, is focused on solving problems for our customers and creating solutions for our customers. And it's great to represent a product and a line of products that does that for folks. And so it's good to be here.
Thank you, Jack. That was interesting. I didn't know that about Wood-Mizer. And do we have any questions out there yet?
I haven't seen any.
We have several people on this forum that run Wood-Mizer machines. Paul and Andy have an LT15. John Davison has an LT35. And Craig has an LT40 and an LT50.
And Eric has the 70 electric.
Yeah, Eric's got 70 electric. All right, guys, if you're just joining us, go ahead and throw a comment down there. Let us know you're here. If you have any questions for Jack for Wood-Mizer, throw it right up there on the screen, and we'll put it up to Jack and let Jack answer it.
Oh, James Hicks is in. James Hicks is in here. Hey, James, how you doing?
Good to see you. James.
He's
and we were talking to Jack before we started. We were talking about, didn't you say, Jack, they have a new facility opening up somewheres, Wood-Mizer?
Yeah, and so Wood-Mizer has as we grow throughout the year since 1982, we used to deliver every sawmill from Indiana, and then we kind of grow and had branch offices on each end of the country, and we've grown since then. We've done that through authorized sales centers, and so we've got authorized sales centers throughout the country that are factory trained folks that are familiar with the product. We take that seriously when someone is to represent a piece of Wood-Mizer equipment and represent our company. So lots of times, folks that are run an authorized sales center are people that we've built a relationship with. So they've been a customer of Wood-Mizer's. They're familiar with the product. They've used the product.
oh geez.
And we know that they're going to represent our product with integrity. And so we have opened up a couple of new locations this year, one in Arkansas, in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and we have one in Central City, Kentucky. And one of the newer ones is in Michigan as well, Linden, Michigan. I'm not sure when that opened. I think it was the end of last year, but there's some new locations just for us to get closer to the customer. I do see a question here.
Yeah, it's more of a statement, I think.
Yeah, a little statement about the website. And so, I'm not too involved in the making of the website. We have a marketing department that handles our website. And, it says maybe there's an issue with opening equipment diagrams. We do have all of that still available. And we've made an effort this year to make it really easy to access our equipment diagrams, parts diagrams, things like that. One way you could do that is you can go right on our website, and I could share the link or the menu path to get to it. But you could type in your serial number at any time and pull up your parts diagrams. On all of our new mills, we've got a QR code on the mill. You can scan it and pull up the your revision mill and the parts diagrams and manuals right there on the fly. So there's some really cool stuff on there. With any new website, there's always a learning curve, and some growing pains there. But we're always there to assist. So if you have any issues with the website or looking at any of those diagrams, give one of our locations a call. We'd be happy to help.
Great.
You can still get a hard copy of those, right?
You can, yeah, you can get a hard copy. We still print hard copies for those like that.
I didn't get one with my 70, and I haven't sent me one because I needed a part. I'm like, dude, I can't even tell you what I need because I need a parts book to give you the part number.
Yeah, we still print them. What's nice about the QR code, if there was any change, like engineering did a revision change or something that we recommend a different part for that application, a different replacement. the QR code one would be live. That's always the great latest and greatest manual for your mill. So there is that, but a lot of folks just like the binder to have around, and so you have that there. So we still have that if you prefer that. As far as I can kind of go through our mill classes and line up if I don't see any questions right now, but some might come up.
We'll pop them up on the screen if a question comes up. So go ahead and
great.
And talk about.
Yeah, so we kind of started in that LT40, LT30, LT40. The cantilever head on a trailer. That was those are our product offerings for a while. And then we started in, we added some more mills on. We're kind of growing on each side of that, So we have on the hobby side, we've really made a push in the last few years, and we've got our LX line, so our LX30 and LX50 Start and LX50 Super. So those are for your folks that are just looking to get into as a hobby, get their feet wet, so to speak. And we've got mills priced as low as $28.95. So that's a mill someone could get in, get their feet wet, get sawing, saw a couple logs. Typically, as everybody on this call knows, you get your feet wet, and then you get the bug, and then it turns into a sawmill business when you never expected that. I don't know how many times I've heard that from customers where I never expected that this would become a business where I could actually make some money and enjoy doing it. And we see that time and time again. And so from the hobby side, we go into we call them our do-it-yourself sawmills, kind of the next class up, which our LT15s would fall into. So our LT15 Start through our LT15 Wide. So those mills are similar in log size as the LX line, but a little bit more rigid frame, a little bit bigger log diameter, and so just a little bit of a bigger sawmill from there. And then we go into what we call our professional sawmill. So that would be our LT35 through LT40. And that would be the full trailer, 21 feet of cutting length, cantilevered saw head, and go into that. And then we would go into our high production portable mills, which would include the 40 Super, LT50 Wide, LT70, LX450, which is a twin rail choice for folks if they want to get in a twin rail mill. And so that would be our biggest on the professional side. And then we also have grown outside of the portable, and we have a lot of industrial offerings, material handling equipment, and secondary processing equipment that we've really went into. Our slogan has been for a few years now, from forest to final form, and taking it, and guys on this video will attest to, there's a lot more steps than just sawing a board, and so we've got kilns that we sell to condition that wood to be suitable for that secondary processing, molder planers to create that finished product. But even within the sawmill building, we've got twin blade edgers, we've got gang rip saws, we've got upcut saws, different things to help you with your sawmill process. I think I did see a question pop up there. Let's see here. Just for the
I can bring it back up.
Give me an option to have my order.
Oops.
I'll take
Sorry.
Yeah,
that was
okay.
me.
Give me an option to have my order shipped when all parts are available. I've had orders shipped in 5 different shipments on a single order. So the salesman has that option. So if you're talking to someone, that should be afforded to you. But, if not, you could always say, hey, ship them all together, and they can certainly do that for you. The salesman may be thinking they're doing a favor for you, getting some parts to you sooner if you might need something sooner when it comes available. But we could certainly get them all to you, and that's preferred. That way it's all to you, and it's no chance of something getting missed. So
Absolutely.
Hey, Jack, Nancy's wonderful for parts out there.
yes, he is. He is. Nancy. Yeah, I don't know where we'd be without Nancy. Nancy works at our Northeast branch for those that don't know. And she knows the mills, knows the parts, knows the inner workings. And so been here quite a long time, and we're blessed to have her.
Nice.
So Willie's Firewood's asking, what is new coming with the mills and features or innovations? And so, I would say stay tuned. I think there's some things coming in then 2026. Stay tuned. Like I said, Wood-Mizer is always the leader of innovation. We're not just happy with, this is good enough and we're selling mills, but we're always looking to improve, and those improvements come from suggestions for our customers. As we go to trade shows, as we talk to customers that use the product every day, when they bring up suggestions to us, they don't fall on deaf ears. We listen, we bring them to engineering those concerns, and a lot of times make it happen. And we've a lot of those new features through the years have come from customer feedback. And so there is a huge focus on with Wood-Mizer on serving the customer. That's our focus. If it wasn't for the customer, there wouldn't be Wood-Mizer, and we realize that. I think everybody realizes that. One thing I didn't mention about our structure of our company when I opened is Wood-Mizer is an ESOP, so it's a 100% employee-owned company, and so the company's success is really every employee's best interest that the company succeeds, and every decision that an employee makes with Wood-Mizer, they've got to look at it through that lens that, if the customer is going to succeed, we're going to succeed. And that relates to that employee's retirement plan. So it's in the best interest of that employee to make that right decision, right from whether they're a salesman at the manufacturing plant, assembling mills, welder, whatever. All of them are employee owners. And,
Nice.
And so I have Phil Sawyer asking a question about an edger. Says, we are thinking about getting an edger. Can you tell me some information about the EG50 edger? So the EG50 is our entry-level board edger. Okay, so you can look at it on our website. There's some videos on there, so you can take a look at that. But what it really is, it's a single blade ran by a gas engine, so a 10-horse gas engine on there. And it's got a fence. So what you'll do first is move your fence to the side. You have a two-sided flitch, okay, that you want to edge. You'd run your flitch through, take your wane off on one edge. Then it has a movable fence. So you can move the fence all the way that 12 inches is your widest board width. And you can move that fence out. So let's say if you want to make 1x6 and you've got a flitch there that's 10 inches wide, cut your wane off one side, move your fence to 6 inches, then do your second pass and take your next edge off, and you've got a finished board. And you manually shove the flitch through the blade, and you can do it pretty fast. That 10-horse gas is quite a bit of power on one blade, so you can really move it through quick and edge the blade or edge that flitch. So definitely, Sawyers on here that have sawed for a while will attest to an edger will really ramp up your production, not edging on the sawmill. All of our sawmills from LT28 on up include a training when you pick up your mill or have it delivered. And when part of that training, we train on how to edge on the sawmill. So we put all our flitches aside, bring them back on the mill, and we're done sawing the logs, stand them up on edge and edge them on the mill. But it can be done. But if you really want to increase production, as soon as that flitch is cut on that log, pull it off, run it through an edger, and now you've got a finished board there. Or I've had customers, if they don't have an edger, they pile them all up. I don't like edging, and they've got flitches that are 10 feet tall, and they get to them someday, type of thing.
Jack, we refer to flitches as the F word.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Sometimes we say flitches is for bitches.
Right, there you go. So the EG50 is a nice edger just to to get started on it. It's small enough where it can go in the back of a pickup. It kind of folds up. You know, it's 2 guys can get it out of the pickup truck. So if you are a portable sawyer, you could bring it with you on a saw job. You know, if it was a larger saw job where you thought it might be handy to have an edger with you, you could bring it with you, which is kind of nice.
Okay.
Bissell Maple, they have the bug. I love it. 3 years of the manual mill. It's a fun hobby. It definitely pays for itself. I think it's great exercise, but dang, it takes a long time to mill manually. And that is true. I think, you know, just like any piece of equipment, there's always something better, another feature that's nicer. And, you know, it is good exercise on a manual mill. I think, you know, when folks have never sawed a board before and they're talking to us and they say, well, I can get a manual mill because I've got an excavator or I've got a tractor. You know, loading logs isn't a big deal, but really it comes down to maneuvering that log once it's on that sawmill bed. And, you know, it takes time to unclamp, turn it on to your next face, reclamp, you know, so that takes a lot of time. So for some folks and their applications, that's just fine. That, you know, taking the time to do that. Other guys, they, you know, grow to appreciate the hydraulics. So,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, that's question. How much more productive is a hydraulic mill? So really, when you're talking production with a sawmill, it's really talking about, you know, how quickly can you get that blade back into the wood? And if you're messing around, unclamping, reclamping, you maybe a manual toe board or shoving a piece of board underneath the bed rail to level your heart and getting it perfect. Okay, now we're going to make a cut. And especially if you're grade sawing hardwood and you've cut on one face and you're like, all right, got a knot right in the middle. I'm gonna turn, and I'm gonna turn again, and I'm gonna turn again. You know, that takes a lot of time. And so with the hydraulic mill, really once that log's on that log loader, you're not touching the log by hand again, and you could turn on that next face. Even with our entry level hydraulic, the LT35, you could be on that next face within 30 seconds. And your blade's back in the wood. So that's really where, you know, you get that productivity from. Does Wood-Mizer sharpen the circular blades on the EG100? So Wood-Mizer corporate, we don't have any resharp locations any longer. Some of our authorized sales centers in the country have their own sharpening services, like California, Pennsylvania. I know I'm going to miss one. North Carolina. There's a few of them that operate a sharpening service out of their shop, and they most likely, I believe, they all focus on bandsaw blades for sawmills. But I'm pretty sure if you spoke with your Wood-Mizer location where you're at, we can probably get you in touch with somebody who does circular blades. We've got
an EG100, and I sharpen my own.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Just go buy you a sharpener like you're going to sharpen table saw blades.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Quick pass with a little carbide, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I've got 3 sets, and I've sharpened each one of them at least 8 or 10 times already. They last for the whole time.
Eric, do you find one blade or the other wearing faster than the other?
Your stationary blade always cuts. I got my stationary set up to where it takes like a 1/4 inch cut. Even if you got the fence up, it's running by that stationary blade just to true that side up. So it's always cutting. Not noticeable, really. I mean, they're both working just about every pass. Hardwood does you most damage. You can run pine for weeks on end. One little batch of hickory or pecan, and you're sharpening some blades.
Yeah. Well, I can say the since I've had the EG100, it's been night and day difference for me and what I'm doing here.
Yeah, hardest thing you saw out there is pine most time, isn't it?
Pretty much softwoods.
Yeah, you won't have any trouble.
Well,
but you will.
I have a question here from I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
We had
go
a
ahead.
question here from Paul, and I believe Paul's a Northeast guy. And so, Jack, is a December sale. I'm looking at correct. It seems to have the LT50 cheaper than the LT40 Super. And so that is correct. So the LT50 has $5,500 off that base price now, which does bring it within LT40 Super range. Actually, I think $500 less than the LT40 Super right now. So, what if you're not familiar? The LT50, it is the LT40 Super. So it has the AccuSet 2, SetWorks is standard, 2 hydraulic pumps, larger hydraulic lines, so faster hydraulics, larger up and down motor and feed motor and horsepower. So the up and down and the feed is faster. And so it has those. And then to make it an LT50, it comes standard with fine adjust outriggers, a chain churner, the vertical back supports. So really an LT50 is, I call it a cross between an LT40 Super and an LT70. So the LT50 has that LT70 bed style with that chain turner, those chrome vertical back supports that coincide with that chain turner. And so a few nicer features, now really cheaper than the LT40 Super. So yeah, that's through the end of December, $5,500 off that LT50 wide. Yeah.
Nice. That's really
It's
nice.
actually a great sell.
All right, I'd like to take just a second here. John, are you ready?
Maybe. Maybe I'm ready. Nope, I'm not ready. Where are you at? Oh, there you are.
Just tell me. Right, just
Nope.
tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, hold on just a minute.
I am ready. You're lucky I stayed on. You're lucky I stayed on.
Oh,
Happy birthday, Tim.
thank you,
What a
everybody.
lifetime of salt make you look like.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
birthday, little brother.
I was hoping to
Where's
sneak
the-
away without that tonight.
Oh no. You're not getting away without that, Tim.
Yeah, it kind of looked like me a little bit almost.
It was you, dude.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that wasn't you?
No.
Was it AI?
AI, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Sawmill, Jack. How's the lead time?
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. So question was lead time. And so we've got quite a few mills available, so a lot of models available at different locations. And if we do have something built at one location, it's not the other, we could get it to that location. So we move mills around quite a bit. So there's some available mills, and we've made improvements. We've got a very impressive manufacturing facility in Batesville, Indiana, and we've made large investments there to make our mills efficiently. So, lead times are an acceptable range now. If there's something that needs to be built and we don't have it, it really depends on the product line. But, as all of our lead times are noted on the website there, but 3 to 5 weeks on like LT40.
Hopefully we'll never see that 2-year wait time again. I got real lucky on my 70. Joe Whitley called me on a Monday, said, I seen one of your videos, you was looking at upgrade. And I said, yeah. I said, I really don't want to wait 2 years to do it. He said, well, I got one sitting on the yard.
Yeah.
So 5 days I had one.
Yeah.
But he had ordered it for a customer that just disappeared.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For whatever reason, they couldn't find them. They wouldn't return phone calls, emails. So it's sitting in my building now.
No, good deal. Good deal. Next question we have from Willie's Firewood. What does Wood-Mizer offer for warranty? So on the sawmills, on the portable sawmills, it's a 2-year warranty on the sawmill. Most engines that we offer on there would be a 3-year engine warranty through their manufacturer. And then there's a 5-year chassis warranty. And then we also offer on all of our portable sawmills a 30-day money-back guarantee, which I think is pretty uncommon in the equipment industry. But if you're not satisfied with your mill within 30 days, if you bring it back to the Wood-Mizer location, and it's still in good shape and wasn't harmed, and we'll give you your money back for it. And people ask, well, when I talk to customers about that, and we talk warranty when they're looking at purchase, a lot of times is, well, how many times does that happen? People use it and bring it back or whatever, and it's not often. And when it has happened, it's been we used it, we love it, but we want the next step up, or we realized we wanted hydraulics, or we realized we wanted the command control station to stand at one end, or whatever it is. They'll bring it back, and then we'll just get them the mill that they want. And so they'll exercise the 30-day money-back guarantee for that reason. So that's I don't know that I've personally had a deal. I'm sure it's happened before, but I don't know that I personally had a deal where someone brought it back and they weren't satisfied with the product.
So is there a 30-day money-back guarantee on your band blades too? Please say yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always that
I
guy.
think I made you blush a little bit on that one.
Yeah. All right.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Run through some nails and insulators and all that stuff. Yeah.
And
I don't know what happened.
Well,
Yeah,
what
you-
about like on the carbides? Are there anything with those or no?
No warranty formally on those. We've had real good luck with them, and we certainly would stand behind our blade product. So if there was an issue with something that failed prematurely, we've had a history of standing behind that. So
Now, I got a question on your carbides, Jack. We got a couple of carbides, as you well know.
Yeah.
And the very first cut I made with the carbide I put on my mill, I cut through a cable shackle. I think I showed it to you in the barn or the Boonville show. Now, in my mind, I don't know why, it looks to me like when you hit something that big with a blade, even though the carbide teeth are going through it, it should knock the teeth off. And I think I lost 2 teeth, Tim, or 1 tooth. I can't remember which.
It was just one.
Just 1 tooth.
One
How
on
is
that
it
pass.
How is it that it doesn't knock the teeth off the blade itself? Is the blade harder than a normal blade?
no, I mean, I think it really depends on the hardness of the metal you hit sometimes. And I've seen it. I've had it happen where I've knocked every tooth off or half the teeth off the blade, or I've had it keep cutting. I'm glad you had that experience where you can keep sawing after cutting metal. I've had it happen where even on those carbides where a customer is using it to saw reclaim lumber. Okay, so reclaim lumber, barn beams, or things like that, they're really tough to saw. They're no moisture content left in them. On a traditional blade, you might get 2 or 3 cuts if you don't hit metal, and it's dull, even if you don't hit metal. And so customers are looking for a solution. And so the carbide's a nice solution for that. But if you hit metal, sometimes it can knock the tips off. And I've had customers say, oh, I just ruined a $100 blade because I hit, nails with it. And I knocked every carbide off. So that can happen. And so typically in that application, I would recommend a bimetal blade So the bimetal has a harder tip, a different metal on the top. It's a harder tip than the rest of the blade, and will withstand those harsher sawing environments better than the double hard or silver tip line, and they're a little bit less expensive. They're about double the cost of a double hard versus 4 times as much as a double hard.
Now, on a carbide, you have to push that blade a little harder than the normal ones, correct?
Well, it's a different makeup. So all of our blades are with the exception of the carbide, are a spring set band.
Right.
So if you look at that blade, one's pressed left, one's pressed right, one's a raker, and it's in that pattern. And so those set teeth are doing the cutting. And the farther you have it set, the bigger the chip. Okay. And then those carbide teeth are straight. All of them are straight, but the carbides are welded to the top of that tip. And it's almost like if you looked at it straight on, like a shape of a mushroom, and those edges are doing the cutting. So they almost, I would liken them to a wideband mill. The wide bands, they have a swedge and shape tooth, very similar to that. That mushroom shape, and that's doing the cutting. So it definitely is a different feel on the mill. And, so you can push them a little faster sometimes than you can, the other blades. And it could be something to do with the hook angle as well. So on those carbides, most likely if they're a Wood-Mizer carbide, they'd be that 7 degree, and it's a little bit deeper gullet, so you can kind of push them a little faster than a 10 or a 9 degree.
Okay. I just noticed because we were very antsy and we were pushing them in slow because we didn't know how they react, and we were getting like a Z pattern on it. But
yeah,
the faster we pushed it, the less that was in there was evident.
Yeah, some of those profiles are known for that in a way. Like our turbo profiles, our 7 degree turbos, whether it be 739 or 747, they'll be quick to washboard on you. Is what we refer to it to. Sawing too slow will cause a washboard look on your face of your board, and they want to be fed faster. Those blades do, and once you speed up, it'll smooth right out to almost looking like plain lumber. There.
Well, I did also have another question for you about that. When we first went into the log, if we went in too quick, it tended to dive just a little bit. Is that normal?
We always train our customers to, enter the wood and then, slowly enter the wood. Once you're in the wood, then you can get to your optimum feed rate for that species or width or whatever horsepower you got. There's lots of variables there, we talk about, blades and how they're performing, the variables being the species of the wood, how wide the wood is you're cutting. And then there's sawmill variables as well. Dry belt tension being probably number one. And, customers, what do you mean dry belt tension? That'd be that belt that goes from your engine to your main drive wheel. And if that's slipping, a lot of times the sawyer doesn't realize it. The engine's loud, the blade's loud. Sometimes you can hear it. Maybe on the larger horsepower mills, especially, you can hear it. Almost sounds like someone's burning their tires in their truck. But that dry belt slipping, and you're losing that blade RPM, that surface feet per minute is slowing down, and you don't realize it. And when that happens, that blade is engineered to travel at that certain surface feet per minute. If that slows down, that'll affect your cut quality. And so we really want to get that dry belt tension to be, whatever brand mill you're running, to be what the manufacturer needs it at. And so, address that dry belt tension. And then you have other factors, guides and, that kind of thing, alignment. But,
Just whenever you change blades, you should probably just kind of play with it a little bit, right?
Yeah. And there's, with blade, it's funny. Customers will say, I want you to tell me a blade that's going to work for hickory, or I want to know, I want to go to the website and say, I'm sawing white pine today, and I got this mill, and what blade should I use? And there's so many variables, like, sawing style, how fast you like to saw, how wide the logs are, how much pitch buildup is in there, what are you using for lubricant or to clean the blade.
Here
And
you go.
so,
I won't disappoint you. There's a question.
So just to finish that point, though, there's tons of variables there. So what we recommend, and it's really not a sales pitch. It's really, you should have a few profiles in the barn, and what I do is, if I've got a profile in the barn that works for hemlock, like that blade last year, I could cut hemlock with that, and that worked great. And I'll even write hemlock on that box of bands or on that blade and put it on a nail in the barn. And I know I can go back to that blade and cut hemlock with it. It works for my mill and my sawing style.
Right.
And that's what I like. I mean, I can definitely point some in the right direction based on their horsepower of the mill. I know the sawyer most likely in their style. And I know the species in my region. So I could probably point somebody in the right direction. But I would always tell, anybody listening to this video that's on today is, call your local Wood-Mizer location. Most all or all of our Wood-Mizer locations are familiar with sawing, the species of wood in their region, and they could point you to the blade that works well, for sure.
I talked to Joe Main, and I predominantly cut pine, and he sold me on the 739 turbos, and I've cut some hardwood with it. Like I said, I mostly cut pine, and by far that is the fastest, straightest blade that I've run across.
Yeah. I would say on most of our mills that we sell out of our location in the Northeast that are twin cylinder, 19 horse and above, we saw with that Turbo 7 profile. We train our customers to saw at the right speed, so on the faster side, so they're okay with that profile. But when we go to shows, if you could tell them doesn't know about sawing or has never sawed a board in their life, when they say, "Well, you got all this," we'd be up in northern Maine or be up in the Adirondacks, and they'd say, "Oh, what do you got? All white pine here? How about you put some hardwood on that mill? We'll see if it can do anything." and we, okay, and you could explain that, softwood with knots is the hardest wood to saw for a band mill, and the reason being is that inconsistent density.
Correct.
Yes.
And you got those really soft wood, and then that band engages with a wicked hard knot.
Yep.
And wicked being an industry term in New England. They use wicked a lot up there. But you hit that knot, and then that blade doesn't know what to do. And that Turbo 7, I found up here with your hemlock hard knots, your white pine, your that kind of thing, that really seems to cut through those hard knots and keep it straight. I've had good luck with that Turbo.
Yeah, very, very, very nice cut.
Yeah. So
Right,
John
Jack,
Bowen.
yeah.
Bowen's a customer of mine up in the Northeast. Would Wood-Mizer consider making in-depth sawyer educational resources? There are a few resources available to teach those who are new to sawing how to learn the trade. We have talked about that. We've hosted a lot of in-person seminars, and I try to do that throughout the year. We have owners' days, and we get into different topics with each owner's day. There's a lot to learn. I've had kiln experts in to talk about drying lumber, how to manage your wood dry yard, how to sticker lumber properly. And then I've had guys come in about sawing for grade in the hardwood market. Just a little tiny synopsis of the NHLA rules of lumber grading, so that the sawyer can kind of, as they're sawing, as they're looking at that cant, make decisions on when to flip, what to cut off a flitch when you're edging, all those decisions, just to make better decisions with that, to make higher value lumber. And so we've had all those educational opportunities in person, and I know Wood-Mizer has talked about creating a more of a web version or something that's easily accessible to people, kind of getting that in a video form. And I would say I wouldn't be surprised if that was out there soon. But Let's say John says I attended Wood-Mizer up in Connecticut last year, where Jack gave a good in-depth clinic on sawing, and Walter did a very useful clinic on how to line the mill. And so that was something kind of new for us. We went to a customer's location in Connecticut that was we're thankful to him to open up his place for us. We brought a couple mills, and it was a very casual. We called it a sawmill meetup, and we got some. I think it was pizza and wings and some drinks, and we all kind of just huddled around the sawmill. Everybody kind of shared, just like this format, but in person, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, questions they had. We did an alignment class, how to align your sawmill. I talked a little bit about, I think it was drying lumber and then sawing for quality. And that was really, really cool to just be able to connect with people and talk about it. And I'm sure we'll have another event in the Northeast like that this year.
Okay, so if you don't mind, just real quick, Phil Sawyer, I'm going to put that back up there, John. He's got a 428 Hudson, and what's the best blade to use on hemlock? We cut a lot of hemlock, and Tim had a Patriot, which is comparable in size to the 428. I think it has the same horsepower. We made out real well with the double hard 10-degree Wood-Mizer blades. Yep. They seem to work the best on that mill for hemlock, whether it was summer or winter. And to make sure you put that tree on there, small end facing the mill, that'll help you get over those knots without a hump.
Yeah, good advice there. Wintertime sawing, your biggest challenge is sawdust removal. And what I mean by that, when you're anybody that's sawing frozen logs would know, once you've made that cut, if you're not getting the sawdust out the sawdust chute, it's spilling outside of the blade and back onto the cant, and almost automatically freezes on top of that cant. And then you have that body or band that's coming over that frozen sawdust and does this, and then it tries to recover, and you've got those waves. And so if you can get that sawdust out, that's really, so you can do that by feed speed, keeping your feed speed up, and then some of the profiles help a lot. The Turbo 7's got a deep gullet. The 10 degree has a deep gullet, not as deep as the 739, but 10 degree or 739 has a deep gullet. That space between the teeth we call the gullet, where it swoops down, and that's what's carrying that sawdust outside of the cut. We've done quite a bit of testing on frozen wood sawing, and that Turbo 7 definitely performed, of the regular double hard series, one of the best. So between the 10 degree and the 739, definitely you can get her done.
Excuse me, John, would you please take care of that comment over there? Thank you. All right, go ahead.
I don't see.
It's that KEGCC.
Oh yeah, I see.
It's the same people that was doing the other one. Come on, please.
All right. So one says, if someone looking to get into sawing products and company are quite attractive, can you touch on the cantilever maintenance requirements? How much maintenance? How does it maintain square? So that cantilever saw head, so as you can imagine, it's got that trapezoidal shaped bed and that main rail. So it's got a hardened rail that's welded on the top and the bottom of that main tube. And then we have cam Fowler bearings that hug that main rail, and that head is cantilevered over your bed frame. And so at first glance, you'd be like, well, I'm nothing supporting it over here. Is that a problem? And we've known from experience of, thousands of mills out there in the field since the early 80s that's not an issue. Over thousands of hours, those bearings, of course, will wear a little bit because they're softer than the hardened rail. And, over thousands of hours, you might get a little bit of this. And then within, 10 minutes of adjustment, we have adjustment in those bearings to bring that back square. But again, that's something that's thousands of hours, not every log or something like that. And why we did that with that cantilevered head, for a few reasons. One, we wanted to make a portable mill, something that we realized customers wouldn't necessarily get paid to sit there and set up their sawmill. If they get paid by the board foot, they're going to get paid for the lumber they yield. And so we wanted them to be able to set up their mill quickly and saw lumber. And so with a cantilevered saw head and that bed design, the sawmill bed doesn't have to be level to cut accurate lumber. Yeah, that cantilevered head, the way it hugs that rail, it's going to move with the saw bed wherever that may be. So we just want to kind of get it to eye level. That way our material's we're not fighting gravity when they're turning logs and things like that. But we want it pretty level to eye level, but we don't have to put a level on the bed rails or anything like that to get it because of that cantilevered head. The other benefit of the cantilevered head is having that side open allows you to saw larger logs. You know, the diameter of that log's going to go out past your cutting capacity. If there was a support there, that would interfere. And then if you had like a crotch or something that stuck out, you can clear that and kind of get past it and cut it down to a manageable size. And edging and getting in as the tail man on a cantilever mill is a pleasure. You can get right in there and grab that board. There's no, it's not a twin rail mill's got a square frame that you're really reaching in there to grab your material and things like that. And so we've had really good luck with that cantilevered head. And I've always, encouraged potential customers when they're at a trade show and they've asked about that, is just go take a look at the lumber pile. Put a square against the can. Take a look at that lumber and just see how accurate it really is.
Yeah, Eric brought that up last month about the larger logs. Rick and I always wondered about that, but Eric explained that perfectly last month. So it made sense.
All right,
And
so we have
one other thing
Go
in
ahead.
that cantilever head is everybody says, how come my head's not square? I always tell them because it's not moving. The blade's not moving. The head is not square until the blade's engaged.
Right.
And it's moving. And people don't, a lot of times a new sawyer, whatever, missed a class, missed a Wood-Mizer class or just took it home and they're like, oh, my head's not square. Nope, not until you start the blade.
Yeah, so how we align those cantilevered heads, we measure from the bottom set tooth to the set, the bottom set tooth to the bed rail. And on the drive side, the sawdust chute side on the Wood-Mizer, that's, let's say if we set the saw head at 18 inches, that from the bottom set tooth to the bed frame, the bed rail would be 18 inches on the sawdust chute side. And on the outside, it's going to be a 16th high. And when that blade enters the wood, that cantilever head is going to hunker down into that wood and stay right there at that 16th. It's going to eliminate that 16th. So now you've got a square piece of wood there. And so, but yeah, we when we do an alignment, really, we're making that head, other than that 16th high, parallel to that bed frame. So wherever that bed frame moves, that cantilever head moves with it, so we're not going to lose that.
right.
EFI versus diesel. So, that'd be the gas engines, fuel injected gas engines versus a diesel option. And so, diesel engines have become very expensive. There's a few factors to consider when you're deciding between gas and diesel. Some customers, production is a concern. They want to, have a higher production, and that diesel engine does have more torque. It has a longer run life hour-wise, life expectancy than a gas engine. But the big thing being the torque of the diesel, there is quite a bit more torque there to have faster feed rates.
If my opinion on that too, as far as I had a 25 horse Kohler, and then now I'm upgraded to the 25 horse Kubota, which I got a Timber King, but regardless, gas versus diesel. If you're doing it for money and you plan on doing it, go ahead and get the diesel. Production is, I have had way less trouble out of my diesel than I ever did with that gas.
Go electric.
Yeah, so
Or beat that 480.
I missed that, but yeah, that's good. Yeah, there you go. So that, that's a good point, Neil. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to be, sawing for a business and you want to keep that blade in the wood, and you want to, make as many cut lines as you can in an hour, the diesel's going to achieve that.
And on top of that, also one big thing that I noticed is fuel burn, where that gas is going to burn a whole lot more fuel.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. The bigger twin engines, like our 38 horsepower gas engine, versus our 35 horse Yanmar diesel, definitely is going to burn more fuel on the gas. But the price is definitely lower, and 38 horsepower gas is a torquey engine for a gas engine, and it does have a fast feed rate, but not compared to the diesel. So it just comes down to the customer if it's worth it to them. Some customers have, had bad luck on other applications with the Tier 4 compliance diesel engines, with, the regen, things like that. So our 24 horsepower diesel, per the EPA doesn't have to have the particulate filter, but our 35 horse and our 55 horse on our LT70 has particulate filters on them. So they're Tier 4 compliant. And so we in our application on a sawmill have had great luck with that particulate filter because of how we run it. When we're sawing, we're full throttle. And so that's what that particular filter likes. It doesn't like idle time. But, so folks that have had it on a tractor, when, lots of us growing up with older tractors, they'd have it idle in or maybe half throttle, and they want to kind of baby it. They don't want to hurt the machine. With a Tier 4 compliant engine, it wants to be full throttle all the time, and then it won't have as many regens and have to plug up that particular filter. So in our application, it's been pretty good. We've had very good luck with that Tier 4 Yanmar. But some folks, I don't want anything to do with it. I want to go gas, and so we have an option for them there.
So do those take the DEF fluid too, Jack?
They don't. So for the off-road application, for that horsepower level, it does not have the exhaust fluid, but it does have a particulate filter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And my tractor has the same thing on it. I got a 65 horse John Deere, and that's what that guy told me. Run it. Just run it. Instead of idling around, run it. And I haven't had any trouble. I mean, just not the same exact engine, but it is the particulate filter like you're talking about. They like the high RPMs and getting it out of there.
Yeah, for sure.
Diesels like to run wide open throttle. That's their sweet spot.
Yeah. And then there's also the option on the, if you go with the LT40 Super and above is for electric. And, so like the LT70, you get an electric version. I think Eric runs an electric version. And so the electric, I mean, if you're going to be stationary and you've got 3-phase power, I mean, some folks are on a phase converter, but if you've got the opportunity for that and you're, look at this. Oh yeah, there you go. So so Eric's got it there. So if you're going to be inside, you're going to be stationary, you're bringing logs to the mill, and you can put electric in. Definitely electric is the way to go. You've got power. The power's there all the time. There's no lag. There's less maintenance with that. No oil changes or anything. You just fire it up and go. It's quieter. No fumes. So
I won't tell these guys how low my power bill is running electric 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I bet.
they get upset.
So, Jack, real quick, while we have a hold on the comments here for a minute where nobody's asking questions, Craig's a big fan of the bimetal blades, and you mentioned them a little while ago. Give us the ups and downs on the bimetal.
Yeah. So bimetal blades and Craig could probably tell you a little bit about his application there, which is an application of dry material. And so the bimetal blade is a 2-piece steel that's got a wire welded hardened tooth tip. So there's a wire of harder material that's welded to the top, that tip of that blade. And so that works really well with applications that are if you're green logs, for example, and green logs, some of our exotic hardwoods from Africa that are really hard to saw, you make a couple cuts on a regular blade and the blade's dull, the bimetal will hold that tip sharper longer. And then for abrasive sawing applications, if you're sawing, like in the Northeast, some guys will saw cedar poles, and the poles have been up there for 40 years, 50 years, and they've got years of dust and debris and no moisture content left in them. The bimetal blade does really well with that. Craig, I think I talked to you before, and you've got some, I don't know if it's ponderosa pine or what is it out there, but the moisture content's under 50%.
Yeah, all my spruce, all my standing dead logs they're Engelmann spruce at 20% or less, and then all the stuff that's reclaimed that I cut, it's usually number 2 Doug fir that sat around at the yard that didn't get sold to the lumber yard that I'll resaw into smaller dimensions. But I use the bimetal on a lot of that stuff with great success. I actually love those bands.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where it shines. If you're sawing, in my region, let's say sawing green material, green logs, I'd probably steer you towards a double hard. But we've got a lot of guys out here. I've got a few customers down in New York City area, Connecticut, New Jersey, that saw a lot of old barn beams. That's all they do, and then they actually make fake box beams out of them. So they cut them into 4/4 lumber, the outside of an old reclaimed beam. So you've got the hand hewn edge. They make them 4/4 thick. Then they'll do the joinery so you can actually make a box out of them and make a beam. And then customers can use that to cover, modern building, practices. So LVLs, and then our steel beams in a restaurant or something like that. They can cover them up and make them look just like a hand-hewn beam. And so we've got customers that do that, and that sawing is very tough on a blade, and the bimetal seems to hold up better than the traditional blade.
Well, it falls into what you were talking about earlier, Jack, with the sawmill being a tool. Have some tools in your toolbox with a variety of bands.
That's right. Yeah. Some customers, their mill gets a steady diet of the same species, the same moisture content, and they can stick with one blade. But if you're sawing different material all the time, it's nice to have a few different tools in your toolbox, be able to pull out a blade that works for that species and either have it in a notebook or right on the box what it worked well for last time. You can pull that blade out and try it.
It's a whole world difference, like I say, sawing the same species, whether it's wet, medium dry, and just powder. You take a green pine log and just saw it like butter. Let it age for 6 months, and it's tricky because it just wants to. The grain gets hard and dry, and the blade just don't want to follow it real well at speed. You can slow down and saw it, but who wants to slow down? We want to saw hard and fast.
Right.
Now,
tension's a big key part of that too, with keeping stuff flat and straight.
Paul, at the Boonville show, you got some carbide blades. What's your experience with those?
Yep, ordered some in Boonville, and shortly thereafter, loving them. They make sawing easy. You don't have to worry about knots and things. It just goes right through them, and lasts forever too. That's the nice part. I can't remember. Covered it in a video. I think it was 12 or 13 logs, hickory and oak and cherry and maple that I went through without slowing down or missing a beat.
Good.
Pricey, but
That is nice.
Yeah. I was just looking. They don't make those for a 70 yet, or the bimetal that I can see.
Yeah, we could make them for you, Eric. I think sometimes the website's a little bit, doesn't have everything there. But for the 195 length, the only thing with the carbide is if you're going 1.5 inches, it'd be a 0.45 thick versus a 55 thick. But we can definitely get you the carbide for the 70 and the bimetal. Yeah.
I'd like to try one. I mean, I'm old enough to know better than to say no. You know.
Right.
Well, you don't know what's going to go till you try it. I didn't.
That's right.
I didn't know anything about Turbo 7s till Joe Main taught me into trying them. I love them. If you like to saw fast, they don't make a better blade on the market.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Craig, there's one question there. I think you're about the only one that could answer it. I don't know if it's serious or not. I'll throw it up there real quick.
Yeah.
Craig's the only one that's out west. The rest of us are all East Coast.
Yeah,
Actually, I have a
neighbor
down the road about a mile who goes out west to hunt every year, hunt elk. But not myself.
Yeah, don't ask me about my whitetail season. It wasn't too spectacular.
Well,
I don't know about the elk hunt, but bring it back and I'll butcher it on my sawmill.
Just make sure it's frozen.
Right.
We need to have Mr. Neal share his hunting pictures with us. The rest of us,
Put them all on there.
put them all on there.
You went elk hunting, Neil?
He was
I
making me
did
jealous
not.
with some whitetail pictures a little bit ago,
Oh, whitetail.
and
Yeah,
then liking the look on my face when I was looking at the picture while he was walking.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I got a
Jack,
picture.
Some of the pictures. Some of
I got
the
a
pictures
picture
I saw
today. My 7-year-old granddaughter shot her first whitetail today.
Nice.
Nice.
Good
nice.
for her.
She's entered the ranks with her daddy.
That's cool.
Whatever.
So I just want to ask you a quick question, Jack. 1.25 blade and 1.5 blade. Now I know you can run 1.5 on these, like the LT50, but the smaller wheels causes the blade to fail immaturely. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes with the thickness of the blade too, on premature wear on the blade with, because when you talk about a band blade, you have flex life issues. You only can spin that piece of metal around so often before it's going to snap on you. And, stress cracks will form in the gullet of the blade. And that's why it's important to pull the blade off while it's still somewhat sharp and sharpen it so you can address those stress cracks and remove metal and get below those stress cracks, and you have more flex life after that. The 55 thousandths thick blades that we run on our LT70 mostly, they're thicker. So LT70 has a bigger band wheel, so it's not as sharp of a radius where that blade's trying to curve. So they do better. I do have some customers that go to a 55 thousandths thick band on a 40 with a 19-inch band wheel. Because they're sawing like spruce, which have really hard knots, and that 55 does have better beam strength than an 045, but it doesn't have the flex life. So that's kind of the trade-off. 1.5 versus 1.25. 1.5 does have better beam strength as well. There's more blade there. The only issue we see in the Northeast is wintertime sawing with 1.5. I've got a lot of customers that when they start sawing frozen material, they'll go to an 1.25 blade. And you wouldn't think that at first glance, that you had more metal, it'd be flatter, it'd stay flatter. But when you have more body behind your teeth and you've got that sawdust packing, if there's more body there, it's more leverage on that sawdust that's frozen to start steering it. And so we've had customers that actually run 1.5 in the summertime and then switch to 1.25 to run the wintertime and then switch back. So
I've been thrilled with our 70. We broke one band this year on the mill. That, like I say, that 24-inch drive wheel makes a big difference.
Right. Yeah.
John, where are these folks coming from?
Is it full moon tonight?
They're definitely coming from my channel.
No, that makes sense.
You get some bad comments on there, John?
All right, maybe not too bad. I don't know. Maybe it's understandable then.
I know that's right.
Uh,
My goodness. No, it's that. It's the shorts feed. Every one of them's on the shorts feed.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I got you.
Well, that's
every
why
one
you
of
need
them's on
Forestry.
this.
Yeah.
On
I was
this
gonna-
vertical over here.
I wanted to answer that question a person had a little while ago about Wood-Mizer offering all these classes and stuff. There's 7 YouTubers on here that post videos every week that try to help people out in that scenario. As when I bought my sawmill, I didn't have enough sense to get on YouTube and get all the free advice. And that'd be my recommendation to anybody buying a new sawmill. Go around these different channels, and these guys are giving away information for free. Absorb it.
Absolutely.
You know, Wood-Mizer is not the only one giving out information on how to run a sawmill. We all run a YouTube channel, and we're freely giving out information on how to run a sawmill, maintain a sawmill, run a business, run a kiln, sharpener, edger, you know, everything we got running. So
Yeah, absolutely.
There's information out there if you just go look for it.
Well, I could throw a question out there for you, Jack, that we get a lot when we're sawing, let's say, a stack of 1-bys. We won't pull the boards with each cut. We just let them stack up. And a lot of people are constantly asking us, doesn't that crush the blade from the weight of all those boards sitting on top of the cut? It doesn't bother the blade. Can you explain why?
Yeah. So I get that question at shows too. You know, if you're sawing dimensional lumber and you don't really care about the appearance of the board, you know, so if you're grade sawing hardwood, you want to clear that board so you can look at your cant and make a cut decision. You're concerned of the appearance of the board. But if you're sawing dimensional lumber and you're sawing, you know, 2x8s, and you're looking at that, you're just going to start ripping 2x8s off that 8-inch wide cant. And I'll typically do that. Or if my tail man's lagging behind, he's breathing hard, not catching up, I'll have a couple of boards in there by the time he gets back to the mill, and it certainly doesn't crush the blade. Or when you're quarter sawing, you're typically ripping that whole log right down the middle. You know, you've got this much oak or sycamore on top of that blade, and it's certainly not going to cut it. It's cutting and clearing that path, and that weight has no bearing on that blade. I've actually been, and I'm sure lots of us have, we've got in the cut and then realized a back support or something's in the way. No, we got to stop. Okay, we've stopped, and then start the blade back up again right in the middle, and then we'll finish our cut.
And that's because it's due to your set of your tooth, right? Just wider than the curve of the blade, the thickness of the blade.
Correct.
Yep.
You're not pinching on that. Those set teeth that are doing the cutting are clearing that path ahead of your blade there. So
I cut a lot of knotty pine, making V groove and stuff like that, and I flip my cant up, get it to the width I want, cut the whole stack, drag the whole stack back, and then stack it, get it out of the way.
Yeah. A lot of customers do that, and works out well. So even if I've got maybe a less than favorable clamping situation, and I want that weight on my cant, you know, if I've clamped low and I'm not really, you know, happy with my clamping situation there, you know, it could be better, but I'm going to keep sawing. I'll say to whoever's tailing, let's leave those boards on there, then I'll finish it out, and then I'll keep that weight there to keep that everything situated so I don't have my cant fly up. I've had that happen before where I've left them on there for weight. Yeah.
Or if you have a cant with stress.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Helps out a lot. You know, that's something that, you know, stress and wood, and we talk about in our sawing for quality classes. You know, there's a lot to being a sawyer. I say a sawyer is a skilled operator. You know, it's not really something that you really can jump into and do it successfully. I mean, people do. Everybody's got a first day once, but you know, taking time for education, learning about the art of sawing, And when I'm talking to customers, that are just looking to have their lumber sawn and someone to come on site and saw lumber for them, usually in the Northeast, if they're charging by the hour, it's anywhere between $80, $100 an hour to saw. And you're not just paying for the fuel, you're not just paying for the equipment, you're paying for that skilled operator and their expertise. And part of that with sawing with stress in the logs is placing that log on your sawmill so that your ends are supported, the ends of your can are supported. As you start sawing on some species of wood, you'll start seeing that can't move one way or the other. And lots of times, if your end of your can's not on a bed rail, the end of that cant will actually start. Then once you turn, that's okay. Once you've turned that cant 180 degrees, now it's shaped like this.
Yes.
It's pretty dramatic, but you can see a shape like this. And if you were to make your cut, the next cut, you'd have thick ends. Maybe have 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 ends, round to 4/4 in the middle. And so really that's the, sawing for stress, you can alleviate that. Or on some species, like up in the Northeast, I'm sawing ash, for example, a lot of times it has a lot of stress in it. So each turn of my cant, I'll make a truing cut, and I'll cut right at my last cut I just made, and I'll shave a little bit off each end. That blade will go down through and shave a little here, it'll smooth out, shave a little on the end, and I call that a truing cut, and that kind of helps you combat stress and keep consistent thickness when you're sawing.
Yep.
Especially when you grade sawing.
Correct.
Well, that's what you're paying a skilled operator for is, when you make that first cut, if that flitch just lays there, you're good. If that thing picks up, or if it turns on you, the rest of that log, you need to leave a little fudge factor because somewhere you're going to have to eat half a board to
Right.
get that log back straight, or you're going to produce crappy lumber.
That's right.
We've all seen it.
Absolutely.
Best thing to do is, fix it, throw it away, do something with it.
Right. And your lumber quality relates to your log quality.
Yep.
And so that's, you can combat it a little bit and really what comes to life for some of our customers when we talk about sawing for quality is most of our customers are sawing dimensional lumber. So they're sawing, for building material. And I always say, you as a sawyer want to know what the end use of this material is when you're sawing this lumber. And if you're sawing board and batten siding, you want to saw that lumber so the lumber's going to move with face bend. If you can't control the movement of that wood with board and batten siding, face bend is okay.
Yep.
Because we can just pack it up with a fastener and it's going to be all right. But if we had bow in those boards, that's not okay. We put them up, we try to stack them up on the siding on the building, and now you've got that bowed piece of wood, and that's really a problem to combat. On the other end, if you're sawing 2x10s for rafters or floor joists, we don't want face bend. We don't want our floor joist going like this in the building. But bow's okay because we can crown it up and build that in the building. And so really that's you have to have that end use in mind. And typically, if you know a little bit about building practices, a 1x10 is probably not going to be a floor joist. So, you could saw it that way, and a 2x10 is most likely going to be a rafter or a joist. And so you're going to saw that way. And how you open up that log determines on where that board's going to move. And so, for example, we had training in here the other day where we're sawing white pine, and we're going to end up putting that white pine in our kiln and then making some T&G that's going to go on the wall. And so for that application, we want face bend. We don't want bow. We want all those boards so they're not fighting them when you're putting them on the wall to pry them into position to be straight. And so when we had a white pine log that had some sweep in it, what we'll do is if this is our bed frame here, we'll put that sweep of that log this way, the banana this way. First opening cut, we'll cut it this way. We'll turn it 180 degrees. We'll get it down to 6 inches. Then we'll turn it up. So that 6-inch dimension is on that sweep end. Turn it up. Start sawing our 1x6s. So now when those boards look nice when they come off, but once they dry, they're going to want to move to that same shape of that log. And so that to make it have face bend instead of bow, and the opposite goes for what we want bow into. We put that log in a different location. So knowing the end use of that lumber is very important for the sawyer.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I try to teach in our videos. There's a group of questions you need to ask when somebody calls or shows up with logs. Well, you got, let's see what you got. What do you want to make out of it? You brought me a bunch of number 3 red oaks and you want number 1 florid. Well,
right.
It ain't going to happen, buddy. That's why this room I'm sitting in is decorated with different kinds of wood.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So I can walk around and show them this is a 1, this is a 2, and all these holes is what you brought, a 3, and that's what you're going to take home.
Right.
Just to temper their expectations so that when they come pick up their lumber, they're satisfied.
Right. Right.
Not all trees are created equal. We all know that. I had a guy pick up a bunch of 2-inch stuff I kiln dried for him, and I told him when he dropped it off, he wanted to cut it in 2-inch slabs and kiln dried. I said, every one of them's going to crack and split because it was all knotty white oak. And he picked it up today, and every one of them big wide slabs cracked and split. I walked him over here and I showed him. I said, here's the difference between your logs and the logs this guy brought. He brought a bunch of number 1 logs. His 2x8s are perfect.
Yeah.
But he was fine with that because he wanted to do a deep pour epoxy with them anyway. But I wanted him to know what he was going to take home before I cut them.
Right. A lot of that knowledge of wood, comes handy with customers. Lots of times when they're bringing logs to you, they don't know. They're not the industry expert. They don't know anything about it. They're bringing it to an expert. And so I've had customers bring to me, sycamore. Right. Yeah. But sycamore or white oak, something I know when it's done drying in that kiln, if I'm cutting it live edge and I've got all that different grade pattern that changes throughout the whole width of that board, those species are going to move all over the place.
Yep. Especially that sycamore.
Right. And so what I say to them, okay, what's your end thickness going to be after you take the material off? And so on some species, I'll say, let's cut them 3 inches because I know you're probably going to take an inch off by the time you're done flattening that slab, and then some species like black walnut, we can get pretty close to what your end is. There's not a lot of, it kind of behaves a little better depending on the grain pattern than some species. So knowing your species.
The thing we want to do is have a customer bring you a log that has meaning. Now, if it's just a log out of the woods, it's just a log out of the woods. But they bring you a log that has meaning. Grandma planted it, Grandpa planted it. They've lived around it for 100 years. Last thing you want to do is saw it and dry it and it not meet their expectations. And that's why you need to know what their finished expectation is. If they want 2 by 20 slabs, okay, dude, how about we cut them 2 by whatever the log will give you, and then let's add an inch to cut them to 3 so that you get a perfect 2-inch board, because that wide board may bow across the face.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you what it's going to do, especially if we cut right through the heart. I know that heart cut's going to bow or split.
Right. Yeah.
Just being good at your trade.
What's that?
It's just being good at your trade, trying to help your customer get what they want within reason. And there's nothing wrong with that 2-letter word, no. Sometimes you just have to tell them no. What you want don't work. Right.
And as a sawyer, you got to protect the integrity of your business and your name out there. It's in your best interest. It's in the customer's best interest. It's in the customer's best interest because they're going to receive a good product, be happy with it, and be able to use it. It's in your best interest because it doesn't take long to go around town. Oh, I picked up lumber out of his kiln and it moved all over the place and cracked, and he doesn't know how to dry lumber, and it could be something out of your control. But you can combat it with sawing practices and things like that.
I've argued with keyboard warriors over the years on drying wood, and I'm like, what kiln do you run? Well, I don't. Well, it happens to everybody. But But you want to be a good student of your craft, and we're always learning. I'm learning every day. Matthew and I, we run about 3,500 linear feet of walnut hardwood flooring this week. I didn't saw a board and I didn't dry it. The guy brought it here, and when he showed up with it, he asked me what I thought. And I said, Mama told me if I couldn't say nothing nice to shut up, just unload it. You know, it was rough. But he took a beautiful product home after we straight line edged it, S4S'd it, and then we tongue and grooved it. We had a lot of hours in it, but it's a beautiful walnut floor when he left.
Nice. Yeah.
So, Jack, do you guys offer any like firewood processing equipment or no?
Yeah. So, no processors at this time. We do sell some splitters, and so our splitter lineup starts with our FS 350. So our splitters are box wedge designs, and what's unique about our splitters is they have a pusher that's in the center of the splitter that's hooked to a hydraulic ram that's below and enclosed, and that pusher pushes both ways, and there's a box wedge on each side. So you put your log in, splits this way. You can move your log to the other side and split the other way, so you're not wasting a stroke, which is pretty unique.
Right.
And so we've got them. Our FS 350s are entry level, and then we have our FS 500, which is our larger machine there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which it is a
Craig,
beast.
Which one you got, Craig?
I've got the FS 500. Jack got that for me last year. I ordered that from him last year. So I've had it for
you had
full
a video
season.
come out on it, what, a week ago or something like that?
I've had a couple shorter ones on it, but yeah, it's what, 3 quarters per hour, I believe, Jack. It's super quick.
Yeah. Now you were talking earlier about downstream processing. Do you have a upsaw or downsaw for cutting slabs?
Yeah, so we have an upcut saw that we've developed for our pallet line.
Cutting flitches is what I meant. Your waste.
Okay, so your slab wood to kind of bucket them up for firewood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have a traditional one. A lot of those are a kind of a bar, with a chain that works well with that. We don't offer one of those. Some customers have used some of our, upcut saws for that, but it's that upcut saw is an actual, circular blade that comes up quick and cuts. So if you're cutting, 2x4s or camp material for pallet material, that's where that really shines. Where you've got in-feed and out-feed tables on each side. It's got a common stop. You can put stops at different lengths, really quickly move that material to one length. It's nice and OSHA approved. All you do is you have to hit 2 buttons on the side of the control panel, so both hands are free and not where the blade is. The guard comes down automatically. It quickly comes up and cuts it within like a second. Just cuts it right there, and you can move material off there. That's fully electric, but it's a really fast machine. So that'll cut up to a 4-inch by 9-inch cant with that circular blade, which is really neat. But
I know a lot of the industrial stuff, it's hard to find online. You go look at my LT70 electric, you will not find it on Wood-Mizer website. You have to talk to them. And I know why they do that, but I mean, you can't even look at it online.
Right.
So some of that industrial equipment, it'd be nice to get a little look at occasionally.
Yeah. It's with the industrial stuff, I think, I don't want to speak for my marketing department, but I think a lot of that comes down to a lot of it's custom, and it's a little bit more, with the portable mills, we've got a lot of, a sawmill that's in that market that can help a lot of people, and we've got it pretty down pat with kind of, I don't want to use the word cookie cutter, but pretty much same features. On the industrial side, there's a little bit more customization that's offered, and layouts. And so we have a whole industrial team of salesmen and engineers
your national
Yeah.
sales guy, he's a real good fellow.
Yeah. So
and
those,
that's kind of the excuse I got for the LT70 electric. They didn't want anybody to accidentally order one of them and it show up and they say, "Oh, I got to spend $100,000 to get 3-phase."
right.
Which
right.
makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of those like industrial guys, industrial sales and engineering team, they'll meet with a business and say, okay, what are your needs? What kind of logs are you sawing? What species? What's your building look like? And then we'll actually build them a custom layout. And
I've seen some of them. They're monstrous.
Yeah.
I actually met Colin out there at Bunyan in October, and that's exactly what he told me. He's like, "Hey, we'll come out, we'll design a system for your setup."
Just have a checkbook with some zeros on it.
Yeah. But in that market, it's just like any market, but the wood market with industrial is up and down. But we found that with customers with the Wood-Mizer equipment, the Wood-Mizer equipment is built to be very easy to pivot, to different markets. It can saw, short logs. It can saw big logs. It can saw, thin material, big material, pallet material, grade lumber. And so it makes it easy to kind of pivot with the market. And so we've had a lot of our customers succeed through the hard times because of how our equipment is engineered.
Oh, yeah. Even now, there's 3 big industrial mills fairly close to where I'm at, and they're doing okay on hardwoods, but none of them are buying any softwoods right now at all because the housing market's so soft. They're not sawing.
Right.
They've all had to switch over to kind of a maple, oak, hickory, hardwood type stuff to keep doors open.
Right. Yeah. We talk in our classes, there's money to be made in each step of the wood process. And I have customers that take it from A to Z, customers that have a logging operation, they've got a sawmill, they've got a kiln, they've got a molder, and they might even and then I have customers that maybe take it towards the other end. They have a molder and they've got a carpentry business. So they're doing the final install on the stuff. So each step of the process, as you add value to that timber, there's money to be made. And so it's whatever you want to get into and learn about and take that on. In some areas, it might not make sense to do some of those processes. But some areas there might be a place to take on those processes. And, I've had customers that have done just that, grown with their business and with Wood-Mizer, and it started out with just a sawmill and buying logs, and they really didn't want to get into logging. That wasn't it, but they bought a kiln. So now they've added value. Now they can sell kiln dried lumber, which opens up the door and opens up the market. They can ship it anywhere. It's kiln dried lumber. It's usable for a carpenter. They can put it in their wood shop and use it, make something out of it. Now that's kiln dried. And then customers have taken a step. Okay, I've got the kiln. Now I'm gonna run it through a molder, and I'm gonna make flooring or tongue and groove paneling or whatever, and then they make that finished product. And once you start making molding and selling it by the linear foot, that's really where the value starts adding up.
I tell people all the time on our YouTube channel that if it wasn't for our Wood-Mizer kiln, I'd be out of business because I wouldn't have made enough money to survive. I'd have to go back and get a job. I don't care where you're at. If you're sawmilling, a kiln makes good money because once you load that thing and close the doors, it's over there working while you're over here doing something else.
Right.
And it's an evil taskmaster. I'll give you that. But once you start a kiln, it's twice a day, every day, until you get tired of going and checking it. It will work you steadily. That's why I was working today on a Saturday, getting the next run of inventory ready to go into it. Next week sometime, probably right after Christmas. So, but it is a good value adder. and it leads you into, I don't have a Wood-Mizer molder, I have a Whiting, but Wood-Mizer makes a great MP360 molder. If you're sawing, and then you got that wood over there that's drying and earning money without you having to do anything except to pay that car bill, and then when it comes out, you can make money on it again. You take that same log and you get paid 3 times: cut, dry, molder, plane. That's a win all day long. And it allows you to take a customer's log from from beginning to end back to their property. And their log is always going to have more value than anything I have that I could cut and sell them. And I do cut and sell a lot, but their log still has more value to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and you learn so much more about the wood, and makes you a better sawyer if you're involved with no secondary processing. Once you've taken on the kiln and you ran through the molder, now you some things come to light. Like, okay, this species I know is going to move on me. Yeah. And then every sawmill owner has a straight line rip saw. It's called the Sawmill. And I, put those boards on edge and rip them again to straighten them up and put them back on the molder. But once you have that knowledge of what species move a lot on you, you actually end up oversizing your boards, so you know that you're going to shave them down before you put them in the molder. So you kind of learn a lot of that if you're involved in that secondary processing side.
Yeah, I'm doing this yellow pine that's going to either be sold as 8-inch boards or TNG. I come in 1 16th by 8 3/4. And if I sell somebody an 8-inch board, well, they got 3/4 inch free. But if I run it through my straight line edger, then run it through my molder, I'll finish with an 8-inch space plus the 3/16 to the tongue, and it'll be a perfect 8-inch wide board.
Yeah.
So just things you learn, you modify, you grow. I knew early on that I wanted to get to this point where I could do all 3 steps. Tickled to death. One thing you can add to the Wood-Mizer lineup, I need about a 50-inch belt set.
50-inch?
50-inch belt center, the wide slabs.
Oh, yeah, right.
But once you pay for it, it sits over here in the corner. If you don't use it, it don't cost nothing. But the day you run boards through it, it makes money.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Y'all do have the slab miser that you could flatten slabs with, and it does have the sanding head on it too, don't it?
Yeah, so the slab miser is a router head, 5-inch router head that removes material, goes through, takes material off until you've taken even material off that entire surface, and then it's joined, it's flat. And so that really works well for live edge slabs or glue ups. If you're doing a glue up table or something, book match or whatever, once you've got it glued, you can put it on there and get it all flat. It's that works really well for applications where you can't necessarily run it through a planer or a drum sander if it's wide enough. You can put it right on there and get it real flat.
I've never seen a wide board that didn't have a little bow in it. They all do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I forgot y'all do have that. Slab
Pecan slabs. I'd like to test one of them out. They're 5 feet wide and 11 feet long.
Help move it, Neil.
Them jokers are massive. We cut them, some of them 5 inches thick, just to account for the movement of them.
Yep.
They're massive.
Yeah, Matthew and I saw some 3 by 24, 28, 12-foot long white oak last week for a customer. Them's too heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, they're massive. You cut one slab and move it with the tractor. And
we slid right back on the tractor. He drove all the way around the building, and we set them on the sawhorses over here because I wasn't carrying them. And I called the lady. She had the local guy drop them off. I told her it's done. She said, "You think that guy will bring them back?" I said, "Yeah, he'll bring them back." She said, "You think he'll help me take them upstairs?" I said, "There ain't no way." And you know what? She wanted to second floor in her barn. I'm like, You better
We
find you
cut
some young
these.
help.
We cut these with Thomas's Lucas slabbing mill with the chainsaw bar on it.
I got one. I don't want to use it.
Yep, that's what we cut it with.
Lord have mercy.
Jack, you guys offer a table saw too, don't you?
We did for a while there. We don't really market one now, a table saw. We did with our woodworking equipment there for a while, but we don't any longer. Okay. Yeah, we do. I think in Europe they still do. In Poland, they have a table saw that they offer there, but we don't here in the U.S. And the table saw we did offer was a very large one that's cabinet grade, and it really I
saw the guys were cutting full sheets of plywood with it.
Right. Yeah. So it didn't really have our customer base. It wasn't a big hit. And we didn't continue that, but
okay.
Well, they've done real good with that motor. They acquired, that company and blended it in. And I know before I bought mine, I looked trying to find a used one, but people that bought them wasn't selling them.
Yeah.
Well, Craig bought one. He ain't turning loose now.
Yeah, it's not for sale.
Yeah, they're a nice machine. They're what I tell customers that are familiar with molders and stuff. It's not like like a wine egg or something. Really fast and big.
Yeah, it ain't that big.
Right. But for a customer that's got a sawmill, they've got a kiln, they want to run some material through. It does a fine job, and it's inexpensive enough and the tooling is inexpensive enough where you could pivot really easily. I've had customers that they make custom molding for folks. Folks will come in and say, "Hey, I've got this Victorian home I'm redoing, and I want the molding to match. I want new molding look just like this." And they'll draw it out, have tooling made for that unit, and they'll put the tooling cost in the job, and they'll make it for them. It's a small enough machine. The tooling's inexpensive enough where you can make that happen for the customer and do those little jobs. So
that's what I recommend people. They ask me about my motor all the time. I'm like, unless you can find one that's very reasonable and comes with a fair amount of tooling, go buy you a new one and start from there. I've got more in buying tooling than it costs to buy your MP360.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
It's a different level.
Right. Absolutely.
Everybody works on a different level where you're at. Find what works for you.
Yeah.
So Jack, real quick, how is the new entry level mills going? The sales on those, are they going good?
They are. Yeah, they're very popular. We've got those. They're popular website. E-commerce sale and at our locations, but they're priced enough where someone that just wants to try it. They've got a small wood lot and they want to make some lumber, and they've got some beautiful logs that they're sick of bucking up into firewood. They've got enough firewood out of the tops, but they have these beautiful logs they want to saw into some boards, and they can buy one and get started. And they've been very successful for us. And lots of times it doesn't end there. The customer gets the bug and they move up into a hydraulic mill or a larger manual mill. But they've been very popular. That the LX line, the LX50, LX30, quite popular.
You want to give us the specs on those two mills real quick and the price on them?
Yeah. So the LX30 is the entry level. That's the one that's priced at $28.95. That one has a 9-horse engine on it, and it'll saw a 22-inch diameter log. So that's the LX30 there. You can add extensions on all of these mills, but for length. But this one will cut just over 10 inches, almost 11 inches long as it comes. The next step up would be the LX50 Start. So that'll do a 26-inch diameter log. Still has that 9-horse engine on that. But it will come with a little bit longer, around about the same, just that 10-inch log length on that LX50 Start for length. But you can add extensions onto that. So the LX50 is same horsepower, but it's a little bit more of a beefier head, a little bit more sturdy, a little bit heavier duty clamp, things like that. Then you go to the LX50 Super. The LX50 Super has the same specs for log diameter as the LX50 Start, so it's still at 26 inches, but it comes with a longer bed frame, so just over 12 feet. You can always add extensions, and 14 horsepower for the engine, and a little bit beefier head frame there, 2 clamps, the heavier clamping system, so a little bit nicer there. So, most logs you'll come across, these mills will do it, not as fast as the LT40 or anything like that, but it'll cut just the same quality of lumber as that mill will. Really, really nice machine. There, those mills you put together yourself, they come in a crate and you put them together, and they're priced that way, so someone can put it together, within a day, get it assembled, get sawn, and they work real well.
The smaller mills are a very, very good way to get the bug, because you're probably gonna want to upgrade. You're gonna say, I can get that next size mill and be able to cut a little bit faster, and it'll free more time up. But what you'll end up doing is get something that cuts faster, and you'll spend more time cutting. Then you'll just want to get faster, and then you'll get another one. That's how it starts.
It's a vicious cycle.
That's the bug.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's just it. You get that model, hobby model home, and you get sawing, and next thing you know, you sell a few boards and you got some cash in your pocket, and you're like, man, this is kind of cool. This beats the office gig or whatever you're doing.
Absolutely.
And you kind of get, I would say a lot of our customers are, ages, 50 to 70, somewhere in there, mostly 50s, 60s, and they've always wanted one. They've always wanted a sawmill, and they can afford it now, and they're looking for something to do when they retire. They're not going to sit in the recliner, and watch the view or whatever. And so, and so they want to, get into doing something, and it's perfect for them. And they get the bug, and they, like to say, sell a few boards, get some cash in their pocket, and they're like, I can make a business out of this. And then, like you said, you get the bigger one, and then you get sawn, and then you get the bigger one or whatever. But doesn't take long to pay for one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No,
Wood-Mizer wants to make some money. They need to start selling log handling equipment. Go around the room here and ask us how many bobcats, tractors, loaders, telehandlers that we all have.
Right.
Because you get sawing bigger wood, you got to get a bigger tractor. Got a big loader.
I got a log right now. I can't move it. My buddy's got a skid steer, 75 horse skid steer, and he can barely even move it. It's a cypress log, 40 inches across the butt, and 16 feet long, and I have to cut it in half to get it to the mill.
That's why I got a 100-horse Caterpillar backhoe. If it won't pick up, I don't need to put it on the mill.
It's got a lot of stress in it, though. It's cracked on both ends and the X pattern, and I mean it's got a lot of stress in it. But it's be an awesome epoxy table, 16 foot. You know what I mean? You can make an awesome countertop or something like that with it. But it's a monster.
Yeah, that are 4 cords of firewood.
No, you can't be burning my cypress now. I'll cut that jugger in 8 foot and make some 4-inch wide V groove, cut around all the stress in it.
Who said firewood? We got to block them from this.
Hey, Jack, I got a question for you. You were talking about the entry sawmills a little while ago. Doesn't Wood-Mizer have a program to where you guys can introduce new sawyers to potential customers?
We do, and so we've got a program, the Pro Sawyer program, and so you could sign up with Wood-Mizer and be on our website. And so a lot of times, people are they call us because they know we sell sawmills and say, hey,
Correct.
I'm not really interested in the mill right now, but I've got this tree or I've got these logs I want sawed up. Would you recommend somebody? And we've got a database on the website, and that we all can access. Anybody can access by state, and you could find a Sawyer on there, and it has their phone number. You can contact them and reach out to them there. So that's kind of a nice resource for our customers and folks in the public. But we've got a lot of customers that have had plenty of business from that site.
I've got a few emails over the years from the Pro Sawyer network. Somebody, you go in and put what services you offer: cutting, dried, mobile milling, finished processing, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good resource. Never missed an opportunity for a sale.
Right.
Well,
I see a comment in here from Jeff here from Adirondack Woodsman. I said, hi, Jeff. Jeff's a New York guy, and he said he loves his 35 HD, hard to remember, the 15 Go that I started with. And so I sold both those mills to Jeff, and that's just it. He's, case in point, what we're just talking about, and moving to something bigger and better. And he's got lots of projects going on right now. So
sound like you need to upsell him to a 40 now.
Yeah. Hear that,
40,
Jeff?
super wide. Don't play
50
no more.
cheaper.
Let's not play. Put him in a 70.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you upgrade to that bigger mill also, because you start realizing your time is more valuable than sitting there just working super hard when you could produce a lot more in that same given amount of time.
Yeah. I think Jeff said it's delaying my retirement plans, he says. But, when I train our salesmen here, I really make an emphasis. It's not our job to sell them. We joke here, but it's not our job to sell them the biggest mill we can, the most expensive sawmill we can. It's really to sell them the machine that fits their needs. And, lots of times if, I try to train my customers or my salesmen. We don't want, if they want specs that go to the computer, we don't just kind of spit out specs, and we want to really understand the customer, understand what their needs are, what are they going to use the sawmill for, how many people are going to be helping them saw. If someone's going to be sawing by themselves, then probably, in most applications, an LT70 is not going to be for them, because they're going to make that cut really fast. Now they're going to stop and they're going to pull that board and they're going to go over and set that down, go back to controls, make the next cut really fast. And it really doesn't make sense. You might want a couple guys pulling boards off it, or material handling equipment to pull boards off that. And so, some customers are in that area, but some customers are sawing by themselves, and an LT40 would do them just fine in the in the hydraulic realm. So
your salesmen were creative. They'll sell them a tailman too.
Right. There you go. There's lots of times where we're done training. They're like, all right, well, are you included? Do you come home with me and help me saw, Question here from Willie's Firewood: with good maintenance, what is the expected lifespan of the hydraulic mills? I've had mills come in here with the hour meter has spun 2 or 3 times, and some engines some sawmills have had 2 or 3 engines on them still, from the 80s, and they're still sawing lumber. I mean, you're replacing components, you're replacing some bearings and belts and things like that, but in wearing out engines, a gas engine may be good for 5,000 hours. It's, air cooled gas engine, 5,000-6,000 hours. But I have a customer up in the foothills of the Adirondacks right now. He's got 13,000 hours on his gas engine. He's still sawing an LT40 Super. I've got a guy near here we used to run a Wisconsin engine on him. I think he's near 20,000 hours on that engine, and the mill's still going. I mean, really, with a sawmill, if you're cutting lumber every day, and that if you're sawing with it actively, that's the best thing for it. If the sawmill goes and gets stuck out in the buckwheat or in the hedgerow, then you pull it out 10 years later, there's probably some things you're going to spend some money on. Some bearings are going to be seized, and some electrical components is not good just to sit out there, hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. But
it's just like
really,
just like with any kind of vehicle, tools, equipment, whatever. Maintenance, preventative maintenance is going to be the key factor of any kind of moving part on anything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always tell people, if you have to call Wood-Mizer and order a part, order two. If you broke it once, you'll break it again. If you're just hobby sawing, weekend sawing, don't worry about it. But if you wore out a bearing, a belt, or whatever, and you call to order a part, go ahead and order the second one while you're there, because you'll need it eventually.
And if there's two of them on the mill, order four so you can go ahead and change both of them and have a spare.
Exactly. Nobody likes to be shut down for a $50 part that you should have ordered and had it laying there, because they're wear items. The frame's not going to break, the head's not going to fall off, but bearings are going to wear out, belts are going to wear out, electrical components over time are going to wear out. That 35 I had has the drum switches for your forward and reverse. I had 4 of them suckers laying around here because they wear out. Occasionally you could open them up, file them a little bit, keep going. Sometimes you just had to take it out, put a new one in. 15 minutes, you're back sawing, making money.
Right.
You won't sit there a week waiting on a drum switch.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that any of the sawmills, the Wood-Mizer, anything that will wear out, you can replace. The frames themselves are not going to wear out.
Yeah.
We got a neighbor down the road that's got one. I think it's a 1992, and it's seen some wear and tear. It sat outside for most of its life, and it's still going strong.
Yep. I got a sawyer buddy. He's sawing with a LT40 hydraulic with no electronics on it from the early 90s. Still sawing.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's
I'm like, dude, buy your AccuSet. You'll love it.
A guy told me one time, you can't get mad at breakdowns, and things happen. But he said, if nothing's tearing up, you ain't doing nothing.
You ain't
doing nothing.
Nope.
No, that's true. Hey, Jack, I see Jeff's comment down here about his thing about going to an LT40 to get the wide option. Has there ever been an option for the 35 wide? 835 wide, I should say?
There hasn't been. The 35 head, it's rated at a 32-inch log diameter because it's a cantilevered head, so you can get a little bit larger log on there. The way that head is designed, it's very similar to the LT15 head. So, there are concerns about stretching it a little farther, how that would work. And so at this time, we only have the 40 wide. So that 40,
if you stretch the 35, it's just a 40. So why do it?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's some differences there. The 40 definitely has a heavier duty head
still
in past.
I bought a 35 because it fit my budget.
Right.
And when I was buying it, I was just getting started. I had no business. Just going to, in my early 40s, kids all grown. I needed a hobby besides sitting around the house aggravating my wife. So I went and bought a 35. And, you're in the 25, 26 range versus 36 to 40 time you deck out a 40. And when you're taking a gamble on your first meal, that's a big price difference.
Absolutely.
And like I say, that fitted my budget. I took it home, paid for it versus taking it home in debt. And that's what I recommend to people starting. Buy what you can afford. Try it. If you don't like it, put it up on Marketplace and sell it. There's plenty of Wood-Mizers, bakers, and everything else on the Facebook Marketplace. People tried it. It wasn't for them. You can get into it cheap. I just
I think
back crying if you get the bug because I told you start.
I think that's one thing that
It's a hobby to get out of hand.
I think that's one thing that really has surprised me too, is as many thousands and thousands and thousands of mills out there, you really don't see that many used ones for sale compared to what has been sold. You know what I mean?
Well, he was right when he said the median age is probably late 40, 50 or 60s. But I got a lot of buddies around here that have 35s and 40s, and they would never, ever saw a log for the public. They bought it for their own use. If they don't use it 10, 20 hours a year, it don't matter. They had enough money to buy it, and they didn't want to have to deal with nobody else doing it, and it's sitting in their barn. And that's what they do with it.
If you want to build a shed, you cut the wood and go build it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying, though, for the thousands of mills that have been sold, you don't see that many for sale. The used ones, you know what I'm talking about?
No, you don't.
I just don't see a lot of them out there.
I saw my 35 when we upgraded, and it was gone quick.
Yeah, a lot of folks that come in looking for a mill, I said, boy, I've been looking for a used one, but man, the ones there's a few on there, but the ones that are on there, they're getting good money for, and I kind of looking for a new one with a warranty for that kind of money. And Jeff said, to just hear his comment, Jeff from Adirondack Woodsman says, I sold my LT15 Go for almost what I paid for it after using it 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, if you were to look at it as a business standpoint, an accounting standpoint, you know, what's that mill costing you for those hours you ran? What's the cost of that equipment when you sell it and upgrade or whatever? And virtually it didn't cost you anything. And we have a lot of customers that do that. They're like, well, I'm going to buy a mill to build a cabin up in the woods. And when I'm done with it, I'll probably sell it. And lots of times they fall in love with it, so they don't sell it. But if they do, they end up selling it for what they paid for it, or maybe it cost them, you know, they sell it for 90% of what they paid for it. So really that cost of that equipment is minimal, and they've got a structure that they built off timber off their own property. So they've saved money, and they've, you know, you've got the value of sitting inside your house or your cabin and looking around. It's like, wow, I saw this out of logs, out of this property, and it's really no better feeling than that.
I'm building a barndominium right now. I have sawn every piece of wood, siding, framing, you name it. I cut it.
Yeah,
on my mill.
That's great.
All right, guys. Well, we've reached 10 o'clock. Anybody got anything closing they want to throw out there?
Merry Christmas.
Good night.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas.
New Year.
If you keep up with anything NASCAR related, you know what this past week's been like.
Yeah.
Take time to spend with your family, guys. You never know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. None of us are probably. Enjoy your family, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Jack, we sure appreciate you coming along with us. And you're welcome to come back anytime you want.
Appreciate that, Rick. Yes, Merry Christmas to everybody.
We just need to make it an annual event with him. Just schedule a good month that his wife approves of.
Right.
Well, we usually see him at the Woodsman's Day, so you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to see him
All
in
right.
Bunyan.
All right, everybody, stick with us. Don't go away. And we appreciate everybody that's come along for the show. And everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a great New Year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, just stay with us, Jack.
We want to thank everybody for stopping by the show tonight. And remember, it's the third Saturday of every month that we all gather and are on the show. See you later, guys.